Boom, 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 boom. A side, B side. What side are you on?
Hello, hello, hello. We've officially made 1 year. Woohoo!
It's exciting, and the best part is, even after a year, I'm not convinced or confident about who starts which episode. So you'd think I'd figure it out after 52 times of whose turn is it, but it still was like today. I was like, wait, is it my turn? I think it's Brooke's turn.
So, welcome back to another episode of A Side, B Side podcast. And of course, I am Adam, and that is Brooke. Okay, I'm just kidding.
Or the other way around. Either way, I could be Brooke today.
If you're Brooke today, that means you start. So, do you still want to be Brooke?
No, see, I don't know. I don't know the rules, so I was trying to go second.
Well, then you need to still be Adam.
All right, I'll be
Adam. So Adam, real quick for you, I got a message on our Instagram, A_side_B_side_ podcast from Sarah. And Sarah said she was listening to the most recent podcast, and she said to tell you, get an air fryer, dude.
I've been told this before.
She said it will change your life. You absolutely 100% need to get an air fryer.
I really do, because almost everything I eat needs to be rehydrated because it's leftovers.
I saw this thing. Did we talk about this? I saw this thing where people are making pasta chips.
Pasta chips?
So you cook your pasta like you normally would.
Right.
And then you season it up, salt, pepper, olive oil, Parm cheese, whatever you want to put on it. And then you throw it in the air fryer for like 10 minutes and it crisps it up like a chip.
So like you basically just turn it back into the hard that you started with.
Yeah, but it's cooked. So it's not quite, I guess, not quite as
hard,
gross and crunchy. I don't know. And like you put it with a dip of some kind. Apparently it's the new trend on TikTok.
I feel like that's born of people just having too much time on their hands and being locked inside.
Yeah, like let's take this pasta that's hard, make it soft, and then make it hard again.
Yeah. What? Just you were so excited because you could. You didn't think if you should.
Yes, Jeff Goldblum. But you absolutely should get an air fryer. Just don't make pasta chips.
I need an air fryer. I thought I bought an air fryer, but it was just a really fancy crock pot, and then I broke it. So I went away from that for a little while because I just saw the ad on Amazon. I was like, oh, I want one of those. And it was like a deal of the day. And then I realized later it was not what I wanted.
Wow.
So that's fun. Yeah.
Okay.
Really good. The Jeff Goldblum moment reminds me of one of my favorite memes ever. And it's got Jeff Goldblum, and he's like, people always ask me, do you pronounce it Jeff Goldblum or Jeff Goldblum? And I always tell them, who the hell are you and why are you talking to me?
That sounds about right. No, actually, I've heard he's a really nice dude.
Yeah, he's just very funny.
So I don't know if you've watched it yet. Season finale of Loki.
I have. Yeah. And, I watched it last night. I got caught up on that. I got caught up on Bad Batch. I went to the Black Widow in the theater for the first time, and finally got to a theater movie in the first time in 15 months. And I've been binge watching Murder, She Wrote, which is pretty exciting.
Okay, Grandpa.
Yeah, it's pretty great. IMDb TV, also the new Leverage series, Redemption.
Yes.
On IMDb TV as well. I've started watching that, and it's been a very productive week. I also worked, so that was nice.
So 2 questions. Well, one question and one fun fact for you. So, in one of the episodes, I think it's like 4, because there's 6. So I think it might be 3. Tom Hiddleston sings, and he sings like a Norwegian song. I don't think it's supposed to be Norwegian in the show, but it is actually a Norwegian song. And now he has cracked the Billboard world charts with that song at like number 10.
Really?
Yeah.
That's outstanding.
I mean, he does a really bang up job with it. So
yeah, I mean, he's clearly a very talented guy. He's got some musical background, obviously, but Yeah, that's awesome. Oh yeah, when he's when they're on the train and he's in the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's
they're
funny.
doing. I don't even know if they're really calling it karaoke, but they're doing karaoke.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, because nothing matters.
And then, how was Black Widow? Because I have heard.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, it felt it. I just don't understand why it took so long to come out. I think I would have enjoyed it more if it had come out when it was like set in between Civil War and Infinity War.
Mm-hmm.
It fits perfectly in there, and I think watching it in chronological order, I would enjoy it more. Like Florence Pugh is great as Yelena. To me, she was the highlight of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited to see how they're going to use her character going forward, hopefully. And they do have this opportunity to use all of these characters again that they introduced in the movie. So hopefully we'll see some of them again.
Well, I don't know if this is going to be a spoiler or not, but apparently somebody's making an appearance in the Hawkeye series.
Yeah, that had been rumored already, and then David Harbour as the Red Guardian. Like, how do you not have him pop up somewhere? Because that was great.
Mm-hmm.
I love his and again, this entire section is full of spoilers. So if you don't want to listen anything about Black Widow, skip about 5 minutes. The entire thing where he is talking about his battles with Captain America, which obviously couldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Because Captain America was still frozen in ice, but he's still like he's so convinced that they did. Like, this was a little tiny like plot point, but I'm like, we need more info there. Like, is he hallucinating? Did he fight a different Captain America? Because now we know that other super soldiers were around after Steve Rogers. We learned that in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I feel like that could be, like they just kind of set up this old little like flashback series they could do with him actually fighting different Captain Americas.
Ooh, that would be fun.
Yeah. So I hope they use him more.
I haven't seen it. I have heard in depth about it, and I guess I'll get around to it eventually. It's one of those where I'm like, I know I need to see it because I do love Marvel, obviously, because I keep up with everything. It's just, one, I'm not huge on Scarlett Johansson.
Right.
And two, I've already heard that it's like,
yeah, I mean, I think if you don't see it, it doesn't really impact any of the other movies.
Mm-hmm.
It may impact things going forward because there'll be characters that come out of it, but
right.
I mean, like I said, it really feels like it came out about 4 years too late.
Yeah. I mean, I am going to eventually get around to it, especially since I've got the Regal Unlimited. It's whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not extra out of pocket, so.
Might as well go.
So, well, I'll save that one for a second. I started and finished a new show called CB Strike on HBO Max, and it's actually really good. It's he's like the description says like, I think it says like embittered war vet private eye, but he's not. I really don't see him as like embittered. I really actually genuinely like his character, and I think he does a really good job with his cases, and I think you would like his assistant what is her name? I can't think of her name at the moment, but anyway, I think you would like her because she seems just like right up your crush alley.
Yeah, when there's definitely like I said, Yelena has moved to the top of the current crush list, so there's hefty competition.
Well, this character is kind of she comes across as very Robin is her name. She comes across as very like meek, but then you realize that she's pretty awesome.
Interesting. All right.
So you get a chance, you should definitely check that out. There's only 11 episodes. I think a new season was supposed to come out early this year, but of course COVID kind of
right
interfered with that. So it also depends on which service you look at, because if you look at IMDb, it says it has 3 seasons, but if you look at HBO, it's only 2. But total, it's 11 episodes for the show right now.
Okay. Yeah, I need to figure out what I'm doing with with HBO Max because I'm trying to do a better job of figuring out what I've actually subscribed to. And I've got something where I've got HBO on like Hulu, which means I don't have HBO Max, but I've got access to some of it. So I think I need to just cancel something and redo it.
Well, I definitely think HBO Max is a good one to have.
Yeah, and like the new Titans series, another season of that's coming out, and there was the whole Mayor of Easttown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I obviously completely missed.
It's not too late.
So I have to get in on.
Oh, and then since we have done so many Dexter related episodes, if you're a Dexter fan, there is a reboot season coming. I think it's 10 episodes. Michael C. Hall, John Lithgow, both already signed on. And then they just announced that Jennifer Carpenter, who was a main character and who, spoiler alert, I've not watched it, so it's not really a spoiler for me, but apparently she died sometime in the series, but she'll be back as well. I don't know how that's going to happen, if it's going to be flashbacks or if they're going to.
She played the sister, right?
Yes.
Sister / confusing family dynamics.
Yeah. So apparently that is happening. I think they're either in pre-production or production right now.
Oh, interesting. Well, hey, everything is new again.
Yeah. So there you go. I think that's all my updates for you. All my notes. Oh, anything else you want to add?
No, I'm ready for the B-side because it goes first today.
Yeah, it does. All right, so this is episode 52, and this week we talk about Joel Rifkin. I know typically we talk about people that are not well known, and I know Joel Rifkin is known to some. I personally had heard of him. I just didn't know much about him. So I figured why not dig into a little bit of Joel Rifkin.
And I knew nothing about it. So
there you go.
There you go.
So Joel was born January 20th, 1959 in New York City. Kind of giving us, I think he might be on the cusp. He might be a Capricorn, which is cool with me because if he's an Aquarius, I'm going to be real bothered because he's going to give us bad name. But anyway.
Oh, yeah, sure. But I'm a Capricorn.
I'm still throwing him your way.
Thanks.
So Joel was born January 20th, 1959 in New York City. Both of Joel's parents were young college students. His dad was his biological dad was also an Army vet. 3 weeks later, on February 14th, yes, Valentine's Day, Joel was actually adopted by an upper middle class couple, Bernard, aka Ben, and Jean Granalis Rifkin. So I threw in the fact about his parents because obviously they didn't stick around.
Mm-hmm.
Ben was of Russian Jewish descent, and Janine was of Spanish descent and converted to Judaism when she married Ben. The Rifkins were a very typical 50s, 60s type family. Ben worked outside the home as a structural engineer, and Jean was a stay-at-home mom, and she absolutely loved to garden. The Rifkins had a home in New City, which is a small village in Clarkston, New York, which is a suburb of New York City. When Joel was 3 years old, his parents decided to add to the family, and they adopted a little girl named Jan. And in 1965, after a few moves, the family decides to settle in East Meadow, Long Island. Joel was extremely shy as a child who had difficulty making friends. Joel had an extremely high IQ of 128, but despite that, he struggled in school as well. He got low grades, which is due to undiagnosed dyslexia, and it made him a huge disappointment to his father. Of course, we mentioned his father, the engineer, so he's the intellectual, He was actually actively involved on the school board, and in 1974, he actually earned a seat for life on the board of trustees at East Meadow Public Library.
Wow.
So Joel, being shy, not being good at making friends, having undiagnosed dyslexia, being bad at school, Joel was also bad at sports. Unlike Ben, Joel was extremely awkward. He was clumsy. He had a naturally haunched stance, a long face, glasses, and it made him a really easy target for bullies. He was even bullied by like the quote nerdy kids, which is saying a lot. Okay.
Yeah, that's not good.
If the nerdy kids are coming for you, watch out.
Yeah, there's like the hierarchy. Like you got the big guys, and like if you're below the nerdy kids, then you're getting everybody.
Yeah, because you got your jocks, and then you got who comes after the jocks? You got your jocks, and then you got maybe like your I don't know drama kids, and you got your band kids, then you got
yeah
chess club. So if chess club is coming for you,
yeah. I mean, if they've got you in checkmate, it's no good.
So in school, Joel was nicknamed the Turtle due to his hunched appearance and slow, clumsy gait. So Joel was never the confrontational type, but all of the bullying did eventually lead him to distance himself from his peers, and he became more and more of a loner, spending a lot of his time at home in his bedroom, which is completely understandable. Okay, up to this point, that's understandable. He's shy. I mean, he's not got any friends. He's getting bullied. I mean, I wouldn't want to be out around those creepy buttheads either.
Yeah, and he's just embracing the turtle montage and staying hidden in his shell.
Exactly. There you go. So this, though, unfortunately leads to our issues. As he's spending more and more time locked up in his shell of a bedroom, he begins to entertain himself with violent sexual fantasies. He was severely bullied, with his peers even playing pranks on him by pulling his pants down in front of girls, dunking his head in the toilet, and hitting him with eggs. So I'm sure some of this frustration he channeled inappropriately into these violent sexual fantasies, because he's being tortured basically. I mean, they're pulling his pants down, they're shoving him in the toilet, he's being tortured, so that comes out in a very bad way. On the plus side, Joel's parents had given him a camera, and he enjoyed it. He enjoyed using it so much that he actually joined the yearbook committee. Yay.
There you go. That's positive.
Unfortunately, shortly after being given the assignment of taking pictures of graduating students and activities happening at school, his camera was stolen.
Oh.
Joel didn't let that get him down. He stayed on the committee anyway. And he was helping people. He was helping the others meet deadlines and complete the yearbook. So once it was completed, there was a wrap party. Joel wasn't invited to the wrap party for the yearbook. And he was devastated.
Even the yearbook kids didn't like him.
Right. Like, and he got his camera stolen and still tried to help out, and you still didn't invite him to the party?
Man, kids are mean. I mean,
kids are rough.
Teenagers, I mean, that is Lord of the Flies has got nothing on high school.
Oh my gosh, I know. So Joel again withdraws to the confines of his shell, aka his bedroom, and he becomes obsessed with Alfred Hitchcock's movie Frenzy, which, if you know anything about Alfred Hitchcock, all his movies are weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, super uplifting stuff.
No. And Frenzy is actually about a serial murderer strangling women with a necktie. Not something you want someone to become obsessed with.
No, not a great sign.
He found this movie sexually stimulating, especially the violence against women. Joel graduated from East Meadow High School in 1977, and then he enrolled at Nassau Community College on Long Island. Joel also took classes at SUNY Brockport and SUNY Farmingdale. SUNY is just short for State University of New York at, and then whatever city it's in. Like, I went to SUNY Buffalo. The University of Buffalo is also called SUNY Buffalo.
Gotcha.
He left school before graduating.
It happens.
It does happen. So during this time, Joel began his search for sex workers. So this awkward, slouchy teen who couldn't even look at girls at school had no problem summoning up the courage to talk to sex workers. I'm not sure why, because a female is a female, but maybe it was the power in knowing that he had the control because he had the money. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, never claimed to be. That's just my opinion.
It's also like a very clear conversation.
True. There's very set defined roles here.
Yeah, which can help lead a conversation.
So Joel's fascination with paid sex workers became an obsession because he finally had women around that, seemed to like him, even though they're paid, that's their job. In 1986, Ben Rifkin, his dad, was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and on February 20th of 1987, he actually took his own life, overdosing on pain meds. Joel gave a very sweet eulogy describing the love his father had shown him, but Joel actually felt like a failure in the eyes of his father. Understandable. He didn't do well in school. His dad was really smart.
There was probably some tension there.
Probably, but from what I found, his dad was never like abusive. He was still always like a loving dad. It was just, the dads of that time, they have this set image for you, and then if you don't do that, they're disappointed.
Yeah, and there also can be the possibility that Turtle was projecting that, saying like, "Oh, my dad's all this, and I haven't done that, so even though he hasn't, he must hate me because I haven't lived up to what I thought I could do."
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. So later that year, August 22nd of 1987, Joel was arrested during a sex worker sting in Hempstead, New York, after offering a female undercover officer money for sex. In 1989, Joel actually leaves school for good, spending all of his free time and money on sex workers. His violent fantasies now involved murder, and the fantasies grew too much for him to contain. So in March of 1990, Janine and Jan, his younger sister, went on vacation, leaving Joel behind. He drove into the city and he picked up Heidi Balch, who went by the name Susie. He brought Susie back to his house in Long Island, and after allowing her to stay for, it was an unspecified amount of time. No report really had the exact amount of time. It was long enough to nap and do drugs. He bludgeoned her over the head with a howitzer artillery shell, and then he strangled her.
Jeez.
He then dismembered her body. He removed her teeth and her fingers, and he decapitated her, placing her head in a paint can, and then he put the rest of her body in garbage bags, leaving her in different areas. Her head and legs on different golf courses, wooded areas in Hopewell, New Jersey. Her arms and torso he disposed of in the East River. Despite his best efforts of, keeping her hidden, her head was discovered, but because he had removed her teeth, she was unable to be identified. On April 8th of 1989, I'm sorry, I think I said 1990 earlier, it's 89, her legs were discovered and a blood test revealed the presence of HIV. Unfortunately, it would take all the way until 2013 to identify Susie, aka Heidi, through DNA testing. Joel heard that Susie's body was discovered and he became terrified by this, and he vowed, "I'm never, ever, ever going to do this again." Which, had that been the case, chances are we probably wouldn't be talking about it. We might, but chances are probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. He broke that vow less than a year and a half later. So in 1990, his mom and sister leave town again. And again, they leave Joel behind. Snatching up the freedom of the house and the opportunity, Joel brought home Julia Blackbird. After their time together, he drove to an ATM to get money while he had a zero balance. So he drove home. well, he had no money to pay her. And instead of just telling her that and maybe trying to make some arrangement, um, he drove home and beat her with a table leg and then strangled her. After that, he took her to his basement and, well, he dismembered her before placing her in several different buckets. And then he filled the buckets with concrete cement and dropped the buckets off into the East River and in the Brooklyn Canal. So for somebody who vowed to never do this again, he kind of learned quickly what to do.
Yeah. I'm never going to do that again. But if I do it, this is how I do it.
Right. Unfortunately, her remains have never been found. After the death of Julia, Joel decided, I don't really like this whole dismembering thing.
Sounds like a lot of work.
Right. It's a lot of work. It's messy. You know, it's not as easy as you think it is.
There's only so many rivers in town.
Only so many buckets and bags. Yeah. So he decided he needed a new means of disposal. So in 1991, Joel tried to start his own landscaping company. He rented a storage unit for his equipment and, well, to hide bodies until he could dispose of them. His company ultimately failed and he grew in debt. So he managed to get jobs here and there, but lost them due to his extracurricular activity of sleeping with and murdering sex workers. Because remember, he's still obsessed with sex workers and like sleeping with them. Mm-hmm. So as he murders more, he grows more confident. Joel would go on to take the lives of 17 women. So we've talked about his first two victims. Number 3 was Barbara Jacobs. She was 31 years old and killed July 4th of 1991. Her body was found in a plastic bag that had been in a cardboard box and put in the Hudson River. So he found a different river.
I underestimated the number of rivers.
Number 4, Mary Ellen DeLuca, 22, killed on September 1st of 1991. Because she complained about having sex after Joel brought her crack. His 5th victim, Yun Lee, was 31 years old, and she was killed on September 23rd of 1991. She was strangled and put in the East River. So we go back.
Yeah. Good grief.
His 6th victim is a Jane Doe, a.k.a. number 6, is what she's been referred to as. And her death was early December of 1991. She was strangled mid-coitus, placed in a 5-gallon drum, and she again was put into the East River. Lorraine or Victo, she's 28 years old. Her date of death is not that clear. We do know it's between 6 and 8, though, so it's somewhere between December of 1999 and January of 1991 and January of 1992. Like I said, she was strangled mid-coitus, placed in an oil drum, and then put in the Coney Island Creek. So he does manage to find a new body of water.
I clearly was not knowledgeable enough about the number of bodies of water
in New York.
Yeah.
His 8th victim, Mary Ann Holloman, 39 years old, killed on January 2nd of 1992. Her body was found in July, stuffed in an oil drum in Coney Island Creek. And I'm not telling you the victims to be morbid. I feel that they deserve to be recognized. That's why I'm going through their names.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 9 is a Jane Doe, aka they call her Number 9 in reports. And she was found in an oil drum that was floating in Newton Creek in Brooklyn. Victim number 10, Iris Sanchez, was 25 years old, and she was killed Mother's Day weekend, May 10th, 1992. She was put under a mattress in an illegal dump area located near JFK International Airport. So, I mean, he's mastering his disposals.
Yeah, you know? He's finding new places all over the place.
Anna Lopez, 33 years old, a mom of 3, unfortunately. She was killed May 25th of 1992, strangled. Her body was disposed of along I-84 in Putnam County. Number 12, we've got Violet O'Neill. She was only 21 years old. She was killed June of 1992 at his mom's house She was dismembered, so I guess he decided that was best for him. Maybe in the house that's what's best for him. I don't know.
Jeez.
She was dismembered in the tub, placed wrapped in plastic and placed in rivers and canals in New York City. Her torso was found in the Hudson days later. Other parts found in a suitcase. We've got Mary Catherine Williams, who was 31. Joel Rifkin took her life on October 2nd of 1992 at his mom's house. Her remains were found in Yorktown in December. Jenny Soto was number 14. She's 23 years old. She was killed on November 16th of 1992. Her body was found floating the following day in the Harlem River. We've got Leah Evans, 28 years old, mother of two. She was killed February 27th of 1993. She was buried in the woods on Long Island, and her body was discovered in May. Number 16, Lauren Marquez was 28 years old. She was murdered on April 2nd of 1993. Her body was left in the Pine Barrens in Suffolk County on Long Island. Now, I stated that there were 17, and it's with number 17 that things come to an end for Joel. Number 17, victim number 17, Tiffany Bresciani, was 22 years old. She was murdered on June 24th of 1993. Tiffany was a sex worker in Manhattan. She was actually with her boyfriend, a punk rock musician named Dave Rubenstein. She told Dave she'd be back in 20 minutes. When she did not return, Dave called the police with a description of the 1984 Mazda truck driven by Rifkin. Rifkin strangled Tiffany and placed her in his mother's garage for 3 days in June. Okay. Now, look, I know New York doesn't get, it doesn't have, summer like the South. It still gets hot in New York, and she's in the garage in June.
Yeah, that's not going to turn out well.
So he disposes of her around 3 a.m. Monday, June 28th. He puts Noxzema under his nose because obviously he realizes things are a little ripe right now because a dead body has been in the garage for 3 days. So he puts Noxzema under his nose to help him tolerate the decayed body smell. He places Tiffany in the bed of his 84 Mazda truck. He then heads toward Melville's Republic Airport in Long Island's Southern State Highway. Two New York State troopers, Deborah Sparengard and Sean Ruane, noticed that the truck didn't have license plates. So they do what troopers do. They try to pull him over. He ignored them. And a low speed turned high speed chase ensues. It ends with Joel crashing into a utility pole in Mineola, New York. Joel Rifkin was unarmed in the accident Joel Rifkin was unharmed in the accident, also unarmed, and he was immediately arrested. And then the officers noticed the distinct smell and realized why he initially wouldn't pull over. Yeah. They found Tiffany's body in the bed under a tarp. Joel told the troopers that she was a sex worker and things went awry, so he killed her, and that he was headed to the airport to dump her body. He was then asked if he wanted an attorney. He was taken to the police headquarters in Hampstead, New York, where after a brief questioning, he revealed that Tiffany was not his only victim. She was number 17.
Guy just couldn't wait to tell his story.
So after a search of Rifkin's mom's house, police found a ton of evidence of Joel's crimes, including women's driver's licenses, women's underwear, jewelry, prescriptions for some of his victims, purses, wallets, photos of the women, makeup, hair accessory, and women's clothing. Most of the items were able to be matched to unsolved murder victims. There was also a collection of books about serial killers and sadism-themed pornographic movies. In the garage of his mom's home, police also found blood in a wheelbarrow, 3 ounces, tools also coated in blood, and a chainsaw that had blood and human flesh in the blades.
How did no one in the house notice any of these things?
Seriously. I mean, I am sure after it came out, his mom and his sister were like kicking themselves. But I mean, if he did this while they were gone, but
Yeah,
did they
but
never go in the garage? Or
yeah, like a lot of this is a lot of stuff. You know, like okay, he could have I could have seen some stuff hidden in his bedroom. They don't go in there. He's a grown man, whatever. But like just the stuff in the garage, like
yeah,
that didn't
yeah,
smell. I mean, the thing with like three
yeah.
ounces of blood, you know, like that didn't
Because
cause it.
blood smells.
Yeah, I mean,
Enough of you get enough of it. Blood
yeah,
has an odor.
like why was there this big drum there?
The chainsaw?
Yeah, things that make you go.
Yeah. So Joel, cooperating with authorities, wrote a list of names, dates, and locations of his victims. To this day, 2 victims are still unidentified, as we mentioned. Attorneys John Lawrence and Michael Soshnick represented Joel at trial. Michael was a former Nassau County DA with a stellar reputation. John Lawrence had no criminal law experience. Joel, 2 months into the trial, was offered a plea deal of 46 years, but turned it down, convinced that he could get off by having his attorneys plead insanity. Soshnick was not living up to his stellar rep, causing the judge irritation, and he was fired by Joel, who kept on inexperienced Lawrence.
Oh boy.
Trial began April 11th of 1994, and Joel pled guilty by reason of insanity. The jury didn't buy it, and they found him guilty of 9 counts of second-degree murder and reckless endangerment. I don't know why it was only 9 when they found all the evidence. I'm not sure.
And he confessed. I'm sure there's some legal reason. But.
Right. So he was sentenced 25 years to life. Joel was transferred to Suffolk County to stand trial for the murder of Leah Evans and Lauren Marquardt. Oh, that's why, different counties. Okay. I knew that,
see?
but I knew that when I wrote it, but like it's been a little bit since I researched it. Sorry. Okay.
There were a lot of dumping spots, so
yes.
Yeah.
So Joel was transferred to Suffolk County to start trial for the murder of Leah Evans and Lauren Marquez. He pled guilty and received an additional 2 consecutive terms of 25 to life. Joel was sent to Queens and Brooklyn to face charges. He was found guilty of murdering 9 women in total and received 203 years in prison. He is currently housed at Clinton Correctional Facility after being transferred from Attica, where he was confined for 23 hours a day due to his notoriety causing disruptions in the prison. Joel sued, arguing that his solitary confinement was unconstitutional. In 2000, a state appellate court ruled his constitutional rights had not been violated. His lawsuit sought $50,000 for each day in confinement, a total of 1,540 days, which would have been $77 million.
I mean, guess you go big if you're going to go.
In 2018, indie film Joel was released about his life and crimes. On the Seinfeld episode, The Masseuse, Elaine's boyfriend is named Joel Rifkin and makes reference to the serial killer throughout the episode. After his name is announced over the loudspeaker at the New York Giants game, they're at the crowd reacts negatively, and Elaine suggests that he should change his name, and he agrees.
Yeah.
Rifkin is mentioned on the Law and Order SUV episode Tortured in a list of serial killers. The song Nasty by Nature by the New York Jazz Ensemble was written about Joel Rifkin. The band's founder, Rocksteady Freddie, real name Fred Ryder, grew up next door to Joel.
Whoa. Probably bullied him just like everybody else.
Probably. But there you go.
Potentially.
Potentially. Possibly.
Possible.
There you go. That is the story of Joel Rifkin. And the reason I think I wanted to look into that was because he was in New York. And I had heard, like I said, I had heard the name, but I just wasn't so familiar with his crimes. So, but that is the story of true serial killer, Joel Rifkin.
Yeah, not one of those. We were gonna do it, but we only did one, and we get call the serial killer. This guy definitely earned the title.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting that you picked New York as, that was a factor in your choice of topic for the B-side today, because New York absolutely factors into the topic for the A-side as well.
Well, look at that.
I know. So not only are we an Angelina Jolie podcast, we're also a New York podcast. It's very exciting. We're just adding so many hashtags on hashtags. So the A-side actually starts on a bit of a somber note. This past week, actor Charlie Robinson passed away.
Oh, yeah.
He definitely could have been or may have the opportunity to be that guy from that show. But my next one will be that lady from that show, I promise. However, he was a veteran actor whose career spanned 5 decades. He has more than 125 films and TV shows on his IMDb page. Such shows as The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Home Improvement, The Bernie Mac Show, How I Met Your Mother, something called Heart of Dixie, which I've never seen, and even Grey's Anatomy. And he's appeared in an episode of 30 Rock, but that was due to his most famous role. And he may be best known for playing court reporter Mac Robinson on the NBC sitcom Night Court. And Night Court is the topic for the A-side today. So in memory of Charlie Robinson, we are going down a Night Court memory lane.
Okay.
So for me, Night Court, I only experienced Night Court in reruns in the mid 90s. Maybe saw some on Thursday night NBC's Comedy Hour at some point in the early 90s, but mostly I remember watching Night Court in the afternoons on syndicated television like USA, or after before the game shows would come on before the news, and after lunch. We would sit, we'd have lunch, and before the evening activities would start, Night Court was one of many sitcoms that my brother and I would watch after lunch. It aired for 9 seasons on NBC. It started in January of 1984 and ran all the way until May of 1992. The sitcom itself took place in the night shift of a Manhattan municipal court. So there's the New York connection again.
Mm-hmm.
The court was presided over by the young and unorthodox judge Harold Harry T. Stone, who was played by Harry Anderson. Judge Stone was a young, baby-faced, good-humored individual who also happened to be a musician, and whose parents were former mental patients. So definitely a unique character. And he was very young for being a judge because he was only 34. But he got his assignment. He got appointed to be a judge when the outgoing mayor was making a bunch of appointments on the last day, because evidently he forgot to do them. He was trying to get them all finished before he left office. And Harry was the only person who would answer the phone and accept this judge's position. So that's how he became the Night Court judge. Anderson, the actor, is actually an interesting story. He would, for his entire life, refer to himself as a magician, not an actor. He got his start as a magician on Saturday Night Live. He appeared on shows like The Tonight Show. He had this traveling show that would go around called Harry Anderson's Sideshow that he did. That was a magic show. He starred on Cheers for, I think it was a guest role, so I think it was 6 episodes, playing Harry the Hat Gitz, who was a con man and magician. And then he ended up getting the role on Night Court because of his experience as a magician, and the heads of the show saw it and said he'd be perfect for Night Court.
That even plays a bit into his character on Night Court. Oh,
yeah. I guess the character was written as a magician before Anderson was cast. I always thought that because he was cast and he was a magician, they were like, okay, we'll just add that in. But serendipity, it was written as, him already being a magician. So they just played that up when they had a real live one audition for the role. He also seemingly has stolen one of my pipe dreams for retirement. He retired, moved to New Orleans, fell in love with a bartender, got married, and they opened a speakeasy together. He did pass away a few years ago, but
he did.
He did, yeah. I think it was, yeah, I think it was 2000. I closed all my tabs because my computer doesn't like when I have a bunch of tabs open, but it was 2018. So just over 3 years ago. So he has moved on, but he is inspired one of my retirement dreams because that would be pretty great. The character of Harry Stone was definitely a unique sort of off the wall character. The entire sitcom was a little bit more risque and push the boundaries, and the jokes were a little bit more adult at times, and the characters were certainly not very clean cut. Brought more of the sort of that idea of Taxi, where you've got these strange motley crew of characters together. So in Night Court, you had a whole cast of characters. There was, of course, the judge. There were a bunch of public defenders, but the most remembered public defender was Christine Sullivan, who appeared in seasons 3 through 9, played by Marky Post. She actually appeared on the show in an early second season episode, but did not become a regular until she was done filming another show, The Fall Guy, which we had mentioned previously as well. Mm-hmm. She was honest. The character was honest and sometimes naive, but tended to be a romantic interest for Judge Harry Stone, always looking at these sitcoms, whereas these workplace romances would drive actual HR departments absolutely insane. She was also a regular target for Dan Fielding, who was played by John Larroquette.
He was so good at being a creep.
Oh, it's so good. In fact, he's coming up next. He was the main prosecutor, Dan Fielding, who was also known as Reinhold Daniel Fielding Elmore, which was his full name. And his character definitely pushed the bounds of comedy for the late 80s into the early 90s on primetime television. He was a sex-obsessed, narcissistic prosecutor who would do almost anything to get a woman to sleep with him. It is often hinted at and mentioned that he frequented dominatrices. He was probably, other than Harry Stone, one of the breakout characters. He was also nominated, I think, for the one best performance in a comedy for like 3 years in a row before he won 4 consecutive Emmys for outstanding supporting actor in a comedy series from 85 to 88 before he just withdrew his name from nomination in 89. He was like, I'm winning this every year for 4 straight years. It's somebody else's turn, so I'm going to take my name off the ballot.
Which is good on him, though.
I mean, that's a pretty baller move, which it all feels like a pretty narcissistic thing, like Dan Fielding would have done himself, the character that he played. But I mean, like, you don't hear about that. It's not like LeBron was like, hey, I've won like 5 MVPs. You can't vote for me this year. Just let somebody else take a turn. Like, that doesn't happen. So pretty over the top move by John Larroquette. Of course, there were the other memorable characters. Of course, you had Bull, mm-hmm. who was the giant bailiff. He was 6'8", played by Richard Mole. He was a seemingly a bit slow, maybe simple, but he was very patient, almost gentle and childlike. He was very protective of Judge Harry Stone, and he had the catchphrase, "Okay." And he would do the thing where he slapped his hand to his forehead when he realized he made a mistake, which...
He was the original face palmer.
Yeah, he was the original face palmer. I had no idea. But that's pretty great because I've done that so many times in my life, especially when I was a kid, thinking it was very funny. The character was not originally supposed to be bald, but Richard Mole came directly from filming a sci-fi movie called Metal Storm, which even I haven't seen. And his head was shaved for that movie. He came to auditions, and the producers liked it so much, they were like, just keep your head shaved. It looks perfect. There was also a couple other bailiffs. Selma Diamond played Selma Hacker.
Yeah, I loved her.
in the first 2 seasons. She died shortly after season 2, and her character was acknowledged in the that death was mentioned in the show. One thing that was interesting about this show is how many characters' names are
Use
very
their real name.
Yeah, so like Selma Diamond, Selma Hacker. You had Harry Anderson, Harry Stone. It's like, why is it the same? Even Mac Robinson, is Charlie Robinson. They were like, the naming convention was just really simple. It was like, what's your name? Okay, that's your character name. In fact, another bailiff, Florence Hallop, was played Florence Cleaner as another bailiff. And so they were just like, whatever, we'll just keep your name. It's too much to forget about. And of course, perhaps the other most well-known bailiff was Roz, played by Marsha Warfield, who came on in the 4th season and was in seasons 4 through 9. And from what I remember, when I think of the bailiffs, I think of Bull and Roz kind of playing off each other the entire time. And then, of course, you had the court clerks, one of whom I swear I've never seen an episode, because as I saw it was all in the reruns, was Karen Austin playing Lana Wagner. She was the original character that potentially could have a romantic entanglement with Harry Stone, but she only lasted 10 episodes, so she didn't even make it through the entire 1st season. So there's got to be a story there that I could not find. And of course, then Charlie Robinson as Mac Robinson. His character was probably the most straight, as opposed to the funny guy. He was the one that would often set up a lot of jokes. He was not more of the serious character. However, he would often get a couple good one-liners when going at Dan. At the end of the series, he left his job to pursue the dream of going to film school and becoming a director. So Night Court received a ton of awards and nominations, as we mentioned already.
Wait,
John Larroquette.
You cannot forget the Velvet Fog, who's a huge part of Night Court. Mel Torme.
Oh, right. Yeah. But he wasn't on every episode.
No, but I feel like how we are an Angelina Joe podcast, they truly were a Mel Torme love fest, because Harry was so obsessed with him.
And he didn't like modern music. He was a throwback. So he was, he liked old stuff, and of course Mel Torme, which I remember watching it and not realizing that was like an old thing, because I was a kid and I didn't know how old Mel Torme was, didn't know who he was. So I think he was, in my mind, it was like, oh, he just likes that style of music. Mel Torme is this guy. I wonder if Mel Torme is touring right now. And then a couple years later, Mel Torme was in a Mountain Dew commercial in the late 90s.
And you were like, I know that guy.
I was like, hey. And the Mountain Dew commercial ends Mel Torme drinking Mountain Dew, and he's like explosions and stunts and stuff. And then somebody turns to the camera and it goes, this is not Mel Torme. And that stuck with me my entire life. So every time you talk about an impressive commercial, every time I hear Mel Torme, I think of Mountain Dew.
Okay. Is that why you drink so much of
it? One of many reasons.
Okay.
So Night Court received a ton of awards and nominations. We mentioned John Larroquette won 4 consecutive Emmys for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series, then pulled the baller move saying, I withdraw my nomination. Also, I have withdrawn my nomination for Emmys this year as well. It's time for someone else to win one besides me. So I don't want anybody to vote for me for any Emmys for 2020.
All right.
2021 would be fine, but Selma Diamond was nominated as well in 85. Harry Anderson received Emmy nominations in 85, 86, 87. The series received Outstanding Comedy Series nominations in 85, 87, 88. In total, it was nominated for 31 Emmys and winning 7. But the most interesting award that the show has won is possibly being the tallest cast in television history. So in Hollywood, we always hear stories of actors, especially male actors, being shorter than you would think, right? So Tom Cruise has to stand on a box to measure up to Nicole Kidman, or Arnold Schwarzenegger really isn't 6'5", he's only 6 feet tall, stuff like that. Only still pretty tall. I wish I was 6 feet. Well, on Night Court, things worked a little differently. In fact, an 1990 article in the Desert News even went so far as to describe the cast as a basketball team. They said up front are a pair of 6'4" forwards, Harry Anderson and John Larroquette. In the middle is 6'8" Richard Mole, Bull, and who rarely dominates but always delivers when called upon. The guards are 6'2" Charles Robinson. So you got four guys 6'2" or taller. I mean, there are starting fives in the NBA that don't all start 6'2" or taller.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure, which is crazy. Then they mentioned Marky Post as a starter. Of course, she was only 5'6", but that's fair. Yeah, it's not tiny. Whereas Roz,
Spud Webb.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't Spud like 5'2"?
Was he that short? Maybe, yeah.
No, that was Muggsy Bogues. Spud Webb, yeah, Spud Webb was probably 5'6", but still, Roz was 5'11". So you've got of the top, 6 characters, most of them are 5'11" or above, which is got to be the tallest cast ever in sitcom history. Certainly taller than most. So Night Court was unfortunately canceled in 1992, but like most series, it left a lot of unanswered questions. Luckily, the producers and writers of another NBC sitcom that focused on the entertainment industry also had a lot of questions about Night Court. So in 2000, so 16 years later, so 2008, 30 Rock had an episode set at the TV studios where NBC is housed that brings all the Night Court characters back together, and the actors playing themselves as getting together for a reunion episode of Night Court. And it's called The One with the Cast of Night Court. In the episode, the cast members reunite. So Marky Post and Harry Anderson are back as themselves, and it finally gives a conclusion to Night Court. Christine and Judge Stone end up getting married, and it was a poignant alternate ending as the Christine, Harry, Dan love triangle was a plot point through the 9th season of the show. The only big regular that did not appear in the 30 Rock episode was, of course, John Larroquette, because he was off busy filming Boston Legal. So you may ask yourself, okay, Adam, this is where you tell me where I can go binge watch this, because this is what you do often at the end of the A-side. And unfortunately, Night Court is not available to view on any of the streaming services with a subscription. You can find it on some video on demand services. That could be as much as $3.99 for one episode on Amazon Prime to $14.99 for the full season. And remember, there's 19 seasons. So this thing can get real expensive real quick. However, you can catch the 30 Rock episode, the one with the cast from Night Court, on Peacock as a streaming option. But just a couple months ago, in April of 2021, NBC gave Night Court fans some good news. They have ordered a pilot to a Night Court sequel or follow-up series that is going to be starring Melissa Roch, who played Bernadette on The Big Bang Theory. Mm-hmm. And it brings back John Larroquette as Dan Fielding, reprising his Emmy-winning role. And maybe this time he'll be like, you guys can vote for me again. It all started when Roch was actually looking for a show to produce and stumbled upon some people working on a reboot and read the first script and said, not only do I want to produce this, I want to star in it. So it's going to be a sequel that focuses on Roch as Abby Stone, the daughter of the late Harry Stone, who follows in her father's footsteps, presiding over the Night Court, of course, of the Manhattan, in Manhattan, and tries to bring to order its crew of oddballs and cynics, including Mr. Dan Fielding. It's the first big role for Roch after Big Bang Theory, and Big Bang Theory is one of those shows that people really love or they don't like at all. I never really got into it, but I did much enjoy her character, Bernadette. So I'm excited to kind of see, because I think just knowing the little bit of seeing the few episodes that I did, I think she's going to be perfect for the role. That it will work out really well, and hopefully it gets picked up. It's a pilot, so hopefully it doesn't mean it's guaranteed, but hopefully it will continue after the pilot is filmed and NBC picks it up for hopefully this fall, because we should be finding that stuff out here within the next month or so with the new fall seasons coming out. So Night Court is not available to stream anywhere, but new Night Court could be on the way this fall. And a special thank you and remembrance to Charlie Robinson, who sent me down this memory lane for both his work as Mac and all of the other things that he did. And hopefully it brings a bit of a smile to your memory as well.
Real quick,
that is the A side. Oh, yeah.
Before you wrap it up, real quick, side note, Night Court is also where a lot of Trekkies, if they go back, would recognize a very familiar face.
Yes.
Brent Spiner.
Brent Spiner. Like, it had a ton of great like guest stars. Michael Richards, who would go on to play Kramer, shows up in an episode. And I think one of the funnest, so I've been rewatching Murder, She Wrote. And in the first like 5 episodes of Murder, She Wrote that I've watched, it was like, you've got Kaniki from Grease, and then you've got Horshack from Welcome Back, Kotter, and Kotter from Welcome Back, Kotter. And then the last episode, Leslie Nielsen was playing a cruise ship captain. I mean, the guest stars on 80s and 90s shows were just out of control. I don't know if it was just everybody, there were less actors or what, but it seemed like every episode had a great guest star, and they were all over Night Court as well.
They were easier to afford,
I guess. Or that, they were all like, oh, you're down the hall, why don't you come be in this show?
Right. But there you go. Sorry. I was thinking about that because I was like, oh, Star Trek. Yeah.
And Brent Spiner is absolutely great as well. So like you said, there are so many little things. And that's why I was so frustrated when I set out to, like, I saw the obituary, the news pop up that Charlie Robinson had passed away. And I immediately was like, you know what? Because there was one episode where I remember where he was always like a cardigan and a sweater and just very prim and proper. And he would talk about, I'm a one woman man. And like, he seems sort of like a square. And then at one point there's like a point where there's a criminal, like there's a tussle in the place and his shirt gets ripped and he's like completely like jacked. He looks like a bodybuilder, but it's always hidden underneath like a cardigan and a sweater, so nobody knows. And I just remember Roz, like I think it was Roz, like almost fainting, and how it was like just completely unexpected. And I was like, oh, I want to find that episode. And then I found out you can't stream it anywhere, which was kind of
that is surprising.
Yeah. And I figured with Peacock coming back that obviously it's an NBC thing, but maybe they're holding it, and like if they launch this new season, then they'll be like, oh, and watch all the episodes of Night Court on Peacock.
Yeah.
There's probably some marketing going on. Those marketers.
They're crafty.
They're crafty doing that marketing. So that started the whole A side, and I've been able to find clips on YouTube, which is the great. You can find almost anything on YouTube before it gets deleted, but it would have been cool to be able to watch a few episodes on Peacock. So Peacock, if you're listening, please add those, because this has happened in the past. I put it out into the ether, and we got the Ewok movies on Disney Plus. So maybe Night Court is coming into Peacock soon.
All right. So there you go. Is that the A side?
That is the A side.
All right. Of course, before we go, gotta let you know that all of our sources, and there's gonna be photos on our website. Adam.
It is A side, B side podcast, all one word, .square.site.
Yes, nailed it. Finally.
Did not read that directly off the screen. That was all from memory.
Only took 53 episodes.
Yeah. Hey. Just stick with me. I'll figure it out sooner or later.
While you're there on our website, of course, you can also send us a story. Maybe there's that guy, that gal from that show that you would like Adam to talk about. Maybe there's a case you'd like to have me look into. I will say thank you to Sarah again, because not only did she tell you to get an air fryer, she sent me a totally different podcast, and it was about Ben Franklin. And did you know that there's a theory that Ben Franklin was possibly a serial killer?
Wow. I didn't.
It's a conspiracy theory. Yeah. Not only is it that he was a serial killer, that he was a British spy.
That one I'd heard. Yeah, because he traveled back and forth a lot.
Uh-huh. And he was a very horrible husband and father, and
Yeah, well,
not quite the stand-up guy he liked for people to believe he was.
Right. It was a different time. Seems like the bar was pretty low.
Yeah. But so you can like I said, you can check out photos and sources on our website, asidebsidepodcast.square.site. And that's while you're there, you can check out merch. That's a great way to support the podcast. Another way is buymeacoffee.com/asidebsidepod. Also, I just completely lost my train of thought. Oh, also we've got all the socials. We've got a YouTube, we've got a Twitter, we've got a Facebook, we've got an Instagram. You can message us like Sarah did on any of the socials and let us know your thoughts on the episodes. And again, if there's something that you would like for us to research, you can let us know that way as well. You can also email us, asidebsidepodcasts@gmail.com. Also, if you would be so inclined, you can give us a rating or review over on Apple, because that always helps us get the information out there as well.
Yeah, and if you've got, Sarah, if you have recommendations for a specific type of air fryer, since we already mentioned, I attempted to buy one and bought some sort of crock pot on accident instead. Feel free to send those links over as well, because clearly things are going wrong.
All right, there you go. So that is episode number 53. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Brooke.
As always, thank you for listening to A-Side, B-Side Podcast. If you enjoy the show, please, if you don't mind, head on over to Apple and leave us a rating or a review. And if you'd like to continue to support the podcast, you can do so by heading on over to Patreon, or you can buy us a coffee, as well as buying merch on our website, asidebsidepodcast.square.site. From Adam and I at A-Side, B-Side Podcast, please remember to wear your mask, social distance if you're around people that don't live in your household, and just be safe and happy. Thanks again from us here at A-Side, B-Side Podcast.